This is the American Dream Mall in East Rutherford, New Jersey. It's the second biggest mall in the United States and a case study in New Jersey grit and determination. It's a story about how if you're behind schedule and you're losing money, but you don't give up, if you dig deep and you get that project across the finish line, then you can still manage to lose even more money. What's up, guys? I'm Nobody Special, and on September 19th, Bloomberg broke this latest chapter of America's commercial real estate bubble popping with this article: New Jersey's American Dream Mega Mall losses quadrupled in 2022. The loss widened to $245 million as financial expenses ballooned. And this came as a surprise to nobody, because anyone who's been paying attention to this project since the get-go has known the American Dream Mall, formerly known as Meadowlands Xanadu, has been doomed from the get-go. This project was first proposed in 2003. It took almost 20 years to complete construction on it. As soon as it opened, the pandemic hit, and of course the mall closed right away. The project's budget ballooned to almost $5 billion, much of which is going to end up being picked up by the taxpayers. And now the mall is little more than a giant eyesore and a cash-burning nightmare. American Dream, the mega mall in New Jersey's Meadowlands, has seen its losses increase fourfold in 1 year. That's according to a draft securities filing. The 3.5 million square foot shopping and entertainment complex, home to an indoor ski slope, amusement park, and water park, lost about $245 million in 2022 as expenses almost doubled to $428 million. Financial expenses, which typically include debt service payments, ballooned to $189 million. There's those Fed rate hikes coming back to haunt this big project that borrowed billions of dollars to build retail space that New Jersey did not need. And now with interest rates rising, this project is hopelessly insolvent. Now, what you're looking at here is an aerial view of New Jersey's Meadowlands Sports Complex. It's right across the river from New York City in East Rutherford, New Jersey. It's home to a football stadium, a now useless basketball arena, a racetrack, and of course, all the way up there, the American Dream Mega Mall. Now, the Meadowlands Sports Complex draws its name from the nearby New Jersey Meadowlands Wildlife Preserve, which is notoriously polluted mud caused by years and years of dumping of toxic sludge from New York City. But besides that, there's also a lot of very New Jersey things about this sports complex that you need to understand in order to understand the entirety of the stupidity of the American Dream Mall. First and foremost, the New Jersey Meadowlands is home to the MetLife Stadium, which plays host to both the New York Giants and the New York Jets, whose stadium is in New Jersey because, like me, the Jets and the Giants are both too embarrassed to tell people they come from New Jersey. The Meadowlands is also home to the Meadowlands Arena, a now defunct basketball stadium that used to be home to the New Jersey Nets, who are now the Brooklyn Nets. They left New Jersey. Now the only way they're able to make this arena cash flow is by renting it out as the set for the TV show Tales from the Walking Dead, which is an all too ironic metaphor for the entirety of this story. Now, this project was originally proposed in 2003, and back in 2003, it was already obvious that the United States had way too many stores, way too much retail space, and way too many malls. But in typical New Jersey fashion, why not just build more of something you already have too much of and no use for? And so, of course, the project was struck by years of delays, billions of dollars of cost overruns, and it was finally opened in 2020. But the selling point for this mall was it was going to be a dual-purpose entertainment and retail complex. It wasn't just going to be stores. There was going to be all kinds of activities to do here. Activities like this 8-acre indoor water park that will cost you $90 per person to visit for 1 day. That's the same water park where back in February, this decorative helicopter that was hanging from the ceiling collapsed and fell into the park below, injuring 4 bathers. Luckily, none of those were serious injuries, but of course the water park was shut down for 6 days for safety inspections, where they identified several other hazards that had to be repaired before the park could open. The mall also features this 8-acre indoor Nickelodeon theme park. Now, this will cost you a much more modest $79 per person for a visit for 1 day. The mall is also home to the Big Snow indoor ski ramp. It'll cost you another $100 per person to use the ski slope for a day. Fun fact, the roof of the Big Snow ski slope partially collapsed in 2011 because there was ice on the roof. The ski slope collapsed from ice. It's okay, though, because the ski ramp also caught fire and partially burned, and I'm pretty sure those two cancel each other out. The mall also features the Angry Birds indoor mini golf course. I don't know if you guys knew this, but New Jersey has this weird obsession with miniature golf. Anybody who's ever visited the Jersey Shore will tell you these things are everywhere. And there's always this one guy who takes it way too seriously and tries to enforce golf etiquette on the mini golf course. And it's kind of embarrassing. Or for the daredevils among you with an adventurous side, you could do mini golf in the dark under black lights. Mini golf will cost you about $20 per person. And the American Dream Mall also has an indoor ice skating rink. Now, this is an artist's rendering of what that ice skating rink would have looked like upon completion. Notice the people ice skating here, but also notice around the boards on 3 levels, you've got stores overlooking the ice rink. Now, contrast that with this actual picture of the ice rink at the American Dream Mall. You notice what's missing from this one? Look around the outside of the rink. No stores. It's tough to run a mall with no stores. On peak days, ice skating at the American Dream Mall will run you an additional $35 per person. So for a family of 4, if you're feeling really adventurous, you could try to cram all these activities into one day. You could do the water park, the theme park, the ski slope, the mini golf course, and the ice rink. And for a family of 4, that will cost you $1,296. Oh, and it costs you $5 to park at the mall too, so $1,301 for a family of 4 to enjoy all that the mall has to offer. That's if you don't eat and you don't shop. A couple other noteworthy things about the American Dream Mall: it's home to the very last Toys R Us in the United States, and it will be home to the first Pop Mart location in the United States, popular Chinese figurine retailer opening first U.S. location at American Dream. Pop Mart is a very famous Asian toy retailer, toys for grown-ups that is, so maybe we finally found a market here in the States for those weird potbelly bear brick things from the Singapore money laundering story. So now that we've taken a tour through the mall and seen some of its more noteworthy history, let's talk a little bit about the finances of this project, this dumpster fire on board a runaway train that's about to crash into a circus. In November of 2022, lenders led by JP Morgan and Chase gave American Dream a 4-year extension on repaying $1.7 billion in construction borrowing. The mega mall, located across the Hudson River from New York City, had to draw on a debt reserve fund to pay interest on $800 million of municipal bonds backed by fees the mall's owner gives to bondholders instead of paying taxes. The so-called payments in lieu of taxes that back the bonds could decline further if American Dream wins a tax appeal against the borough of East Rutherford and a judge reduces the value of the mall. The mall is appealing 5 years of assessments by the borough and state tax court, and the bonds already trade at 91 cents on the dollar. Now, what they're talking about in that article is what's known as a pilot or payment in lieu of taxes, and it's one of the more grotesque examples of how big corporations and governments conspire together to crowd out markets that kill small businesses, all while funding these bloated, cash-burning, wasteful projects like the American Dream Mall. Now, in a program with payment in lieu of taxes, the municipal government, in this case the city of East Rutherford, issues bonds and borrows money. Now, these municipal bonds are then used to finance the construction of the mall. You'll note here that the government is actually paying to build the mall. Now, the idea here is that upon completion, the cash flow generated by the mall will make the debt service payments on those bonds payments in lieu of taxes. So the project is financed by government borrowing, and then instead of paying property taxes back to the government, the mall would pay the payments on those bonds. Now, the problem is for a mom and pop store that's maybe driven out of business by the mall that just opened up next door, they don't get government subsidies to build their business, and they sure as heck don't get payments in lieu of taxes. They have to pay property taxes, which are now much higher because the gargantuan mall next door doesn't have to pay property taxes. They pay a much smaller fee to service the bonds that the government borrowed on their behalf. This is another way that big companies use regulatory capture and conspire with governments to create environments where these big, wasteful, bloated businesses thrive, while more efficient small businesses are driven out of business because they can't compete with a mall that has government politicians in their pocket. But it's not until the end of this Bloomberg article that you realize just how close to failure this mall really is. As of July 1st, American Dream reported being 85% leased Now that's up from 83% leased in December of 2022 and 77% at the end of 2021. Now that 85% leased number is kind of misleading because keep in mind this mall is 55% attractions, the theme parks, the ice rink, the water park, and only 45% retail. So if this mall is 85% leased, but only 45% of the mall is retail, that means 1/3 of all the retail space in this mall is vacant. This grand project with all of these attractions meant to bring in foot traffic has only managed to lease 2/3 of the retail space on the premises. Tenant rents accounted for $60 million of revenue in 2022, and attractions like the water park, the amusement park, and the ski slope brought in almost $100 million. Now here's the problem. This mall only took in $160 million in 2022, but they lost $245 million. So even if they were to rent out the remaining 15% of their space, they would still be nowhere near breaking even on this mall. But it gets even worse. The mall reported total equity of $380 million in 2022, down 24% from a year earlier, and liabilities that fell 11% to $2.3 billion. So this whole mall only has $380 million of equity left, and last year they lost $245 million. And keep in mind, guys, the interest rates have only gone higher since 2022, so this mall is going to lose even more money this year because the interest expense on that billions of dollars in debt has gone up even more since these numbers were released. This brand new state-of-the-art mall, the second biggest mall in America, it's only a few years old, even with all of these attractions. It's only got 1 year to live, maybe 2, before this project goes bankrupt. But don't expect that to keep the lawsuits at bay for very long because they're already starting to pile up. This was from just March of this year. American Dream sued for $7.5 million in payments. The American Dream developers owe East Rutherford millions in payment in lieu of tax agreements, a reported lawsuit contends. It looks like New Jersey taxpayers are already on the hook for losses at this mall because American Dream is already starting to miss those payments on that pilot program, those payments in lieu of taxes. But that's not the only lawsuit. We've also got this one from April of 2023. The American Dream developer ordered to repay $389 million in defaulted debt. A judge ruled in favor of lenders to the East Rutherford complex who said a developer defaulted on a loan. Now, it's important to note here that in this case, they're suing the developer, not the mall itself. So this $389 million judgment is not going to be paid by the mall. It's going to be paid by the people who borrowed the money to build the mall. That is assuming they don't file for bankruptcy also. And the icing on the cake is the cleaning crew at the mall has gone on strike because they are claiming they're being harassed, intimidated, and retaliated against for having meetings with the unions. Now, guys, if you didn't grow up in New Jersey like I did, I feel like I should probably explain a few things to you to make you understand just why New Jersey would build a mall when it's obvious that they already have too many malls and they don't need another mall. Why would they build a mall? And when that mall being built is going bankrupt and losing money, why would they borrow even more money to try to keep building it? Well, turns out that's kind of a very New Jersey thing to do because this is the Ocean Casino Resort. It was formerly known as Revel. Now, this was built in the early 2000s in New Jersey, right about the same time they were trying to build the American Dream Mall. Now, this project was proposed after it was already obvious that gaming in other states was crowding out the market and that New Jersey's casino businesses were doomed. Casinos in New Jersey had already started shutting down, so what did New Jersey do? They built another casino. It's a very New Jersey thing to do. And when that casino construction project went bankrupt, of course, the New Jersey taxpayers stepped in and bailed out the project to finish building it. That is, until it went bankrupt again. The Revel, which would later become known as the Ocean Casino Resort, ended up costing $2.4 billion to build. And after its second bankruptcy, it was sold for $82 million, just 3.4% of its construction cost. But don't worry, guys, New Jersey has learned its lesson. So when casinos are failing, the answer is to build another casino that subsequently fails, leaving taxpayers holding the bag. And when malls are failing, your answer is to build a mega mall in the Meadowlands that is destined to fail, also leaving taxpayers holding the bag. The only possible solution is this: to build the Hard Rock Casino and Resort at the Meadowlands right next to the American Dream Mall. I kid you not. Till next time, live small and dream big.